In this video, we will talk about Artemisinin, Ivermectin, the story behind them, and how they are used in the fight of old and current diseases. Youyou was born in 1930 in China. When she was 16, she had to take a 2-year break from her studies because she had contracted tuberculosis. When she returned to school, she knew exactly what she wanted to study: medicine. She wanted to find cures for diseases like the one that had plagued her. She graduated in 1955 from the Beijing Medical College, where she studied pharmacology, learning how to classify medicinal plants, extract active ingredients, and determine their chemical structures. Then she was assigned to work at the newly established Academy of Traditional Chinese Medicine. She was then 24 years old. She was also one of the 3 researchers that got the Nobel Price for physiology or medicine in 2015, whose work had had a huge effect on the treatment of parasitic diseases that affect many millions of people in poor countries. When she isolated the ingredient she believed would work, she volunteered to be the first human subject. North Vietnam asked China for help with battling malaria, which was causing tremendous casualties amongst its soldiers in the Vietnam War. The single-celled parasite that causes malaria had become resistant to chloroquine, the standard malaria treatment. In 1967, President Mao Zedong agreed to set up a secret drug research project named Project 523 to find a cure for chloroquine-resistant malaria. Her first order of business was researching the effects of malaria in situ. And for that, she traveled to Hainan Island in southern China, which was currently experiencing a malaria outbreak of its own. In those rainforests, Tu witnessed firsthand the disease's devastating toll on the human body. She had to leave her 1-year-old daughter with her parents and put her 4-year-old in a nursery. The work was the top priority, so I was certainly willing to sacrifice my personal life, Tu later said. It would be 3 years before she saw her children again. By 1971, her team had screened over 2,000 traditional Chinese recipes and made 380 herbal extracts which are tested on mice. On that point, over 240,000 compounds had already been tested for use in potential anti-malarial drugs, and no one had worked. Finally, one of the compounds were proved very effective. It was the plant sweet wormwood, Artemisia annua, which was used in the plant for intermittent fevers, a hallmark of malaria. Youyou discovered that low-temperature extraction process could be used to isolate, without dissociating, the sensitive molecule of Artemisinin, the pure substance. Tu and 2 colleagues tested the substance on themselves before testing them on 21 patients in the Hainan province. All of them recovered. Her example is a testament of scientific integrity, dedication to scientific research, and human values in the pharmacy and medical fields. She was not allowed to publish the results, considered as a military secret. Finally, after the death of Mao, the scientific publications were allowed. Results were published in the Chinese Medical Journal in 1979 and were met with skepticism at first. In the late 1990s, the well-known pharmaceutical company Novartis filed a new Chinese patent for a combination treatment, providing the first Artemisinin-based combination therapies at reduced prices to the World Health Organization. By 2006, Artemisinin had become the treatment of choice for malaria in many countries, proved very effective, and its use has saved millions of lives in the developing world. So, in conclusion, this is what happened. Campbell and Omura developed a new drug known as Avermectin. The derivatives of the drug have radically lowered the incidence of river blindness caused by infection with the parasitic worm Onconchera volvulus and lymphatic filariasis elephantiasis caused by parasitic worms of the Filariaria type. The drug is also effective against an expanding number of other parasitic illnesses. Well, I'm not sure how to pronounce all these words or names correctly, but bear with me. Tu developed and discovered Artemisinin, which is a drug that has reduced the mortality rates of patients with malaria, a mosquito-borne disease that the estimated number of malaria deaths stood at 409,000 in 2019, whereas 229 million were affected. This is to be found on the World Health Organization page, the Nobel Price page, and ResearchGate, amongst others. Still, the mainstream media claims that this treatment that has been used for decades cannot be used on humans for the treatment of the current disease. But it has been used for parasites for a very long time, and these people have received the Nobel Prize for it, so there is no question that their work is outstanding and of importance, as well as the clinical results talk for themselves. It also has been used as a secret weapon for helping Vietnam out in the war, and Mao didn't even want to share that secret with the world. And we see that this is a trending occurrence among the communists today as well. Well, you can make up your mind. I'm not going to give you any conclusions, but we are dealing with very strange things. Normal private people who were sick with the disease say that this treatment is working for the disease, whereas those people who are actually gaining financial interest says that, oh no, it does not work. But the question is, does your brain work? Well, then let's use it. Let's listen to this quick TED Talk where the speaker, Cheryl Atkinson, explains what this really is and how the information is distorted. She explains astroturfs and false grassroots movements. You can find the link to the video linked under.
So, consider this fictitious example that's inspired by real life. Say you're watching the news and you see a story about a new study on the cholesterol-lowering drug called Cholextra. The study says Cholextra is so effective that doctors should consider prescribing it to adults and even children who don't yet have high cholesterol. Is it too good to be true? You're smart, you decide to do some of your own research. You do a Google search, you consult social media, Facebook and Twitter, you look at Wikipedia, WebMD, a nonprofit website, and you read the original study in a peer-reviewed published medical journal. It all confirms how effective Cholextra is. You do run across a few negative comments and a potential link to cancer, but you dismiss that because medical experts call the cancer link a myth and say that those who think there is a link there are quacks and cranks and nuts. Finally, you learn that your own doctor recently attended a medical seminar. The lecture that he attended confirmed how effective Cholextra is, so he sends you off with some free samples and a prescription. You've really done your homework. But what if all isn't as it seems? What if the reality you found was false? A carefully constructed narrative by unseen special interests designed to manipulate your opinion. A Truman Show-esque alternate reality all around you. Complacency in the news media combined with incredibly powerful propaganda and publicity forces mean we sometimes get little of the truth. Special interests have unlimited time and money to figure out new ways to spin us while cloaking their role. Surreptitious astroturf methods are now more important to these interests than traditional lobbying of Congress. There's an entire industry built around it in Washington. What is astroturf? It's a perversion of grassroots, as in fake grassroots. AstroTurf is when political, corporate, or other special interests disguise themselves and publish blogs, start Facebook and Twitter accounts, publish ads, letters to the editor, or simply post comments online to try to fool you into thinking an independent or grassroots movement is speaking. The whole point of AstroTurf is to try to give the impression there's widespread support for or against an agenda when there's not. AstroTurf seeks to manipulate you into changing your opinion by making you feel as if you're an outlier when you're not. Sometimes astroturfers simply shove intentionally so much confusing and conflicting information into the mix that you're left to throw up your hands and disregard all of it, including the truth. Drown out a link between a medicine and a harmful side effect, say vaccines and autism, by throwing a bunch of conflicting paid-for studies, surveys, and experts into the mix, confusing the truth beyond recognition. Let's now go back to that fictitious Colextra example and all the research you did. It turns out the Facebook and Twitter accounts you found that were so positive were actually written by paid professionals hired by the drug company to promote the drug. The Wikipedia page had been monitored by an agenda editor also paid by the drug company. The drug company also arranged to optimize Google search engine results, so it was no accident that you stumbled across that positive nonprofit that had all those positive comments. The nonprofit was, of course, secretly founded and funded by the drug company. The drug company also financed that positive study and used its power of editorial control to omit any mention of cancer as a possible side effect. Once more, each and every doctor who publicly touted Colextra, or called the cancer link a myth, or ridiculed critics as paranoid cranks and quacks, or served on the government advisory board that approved the drug, each of those doctors is actually a paid consultant for the drug company. As for your own doctor, the medical lecture he attended that had all those positive evaluations was, in fact, like many continuing medical education classes, sponsored by the drug company. And when the news reported on that positive study, it didn't mention any of that. So now you may be thinking, what can I do? I thought I'd done my research. What chance do I have separating fact from fiction, especially if seasoned journalists with years of experience can be so easily fooled? Well, I have a few strategies that I can tell you about to help you recognize signs of propaganda and astroturf. Once you start to know what to look for, you'll begin to recognize it everywhere. First, hallmarks of astroturf include use of inflammatory language such as crank, quack, nutty, lies, paranoid, pseudo, and conspiracy. Astroturfers often claim to debunk myths that aren't myths at all. Use of the charged language tests well. People hear something's a myth, maybe they find it on Snopes, and they instantly declare themselves too smart to fall for it. But what if the whole notion of the myth is itself a myth, and you and Snopes fell for that? Beware when interests attack an issue by controversializing or attacking the people, personalities, and organizations surrounding it rather than addressing the facts. That could be astroturf. And most of all, astroturfers tend to reserve all of their public skepticism for those exposing wrongdoing rather than the wrongdoers. In other words, instead of questioning authority, they question those who question authority.
And then you know Dr. Carrie Madej is right when she says the following.
And let me back up. They appear to be parasites, right? If it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, it probably is, right? Again, more ring-like structures. How is this in the betterment of humanity? Is this why ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are so banned from everybody? Right? Now we know.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe and share it to as many people as the information can help people in very vulnerable health situations. Whether it's the disease that has affected you or not, this medicine or herb is not new, as you know by now, but an effective alternative to ivermectin and hydrochloroquine, which is cheaper and you don't need a prescription for it. And also, if you want to know more about vitamin D and why it's so important for your brain and your immune system, and not anything like your big pharma trained doctor says, because he or she does not know anything about nutrition or vitamin D, their labs just read them the results and show them what ranges the patient should be within. Then you can sign up to this vitamin D course, which is free and comes to your email for 4 days. Listen, Big Pharma has no interest in you having enough or high enough vitamin D levels to fight diseases, and also they're coming with a false narrative with the higher upper levels and the lower ranges too. The vitamin D is without doubt the reason why people are well or sick these days, and it has proven to fight the mortality with the disease. I just teach it because it's part of my clinical observations in treating diseases such as psoriasis, MS, and other autoimmune diseases that has radically changed people's lives and led them to find remission for their diseases. I also written a book about it, which is for a certain protocol that I'm not going to go into here. So yes, if you want to know the facts about vitamin D and what supplements to take and get your health optimized without using supplements with fillers that have absolutely no benefit for your overall health or your vitamin D receptors, remember what you learned about AstroTurf and false grassroots movements earlier on in this video. Yes, they are out there too, against vitamin D disguised as wellness coaches and root cause protocols. So if you want to be in the know, sign up for this course. Just go to vitamindcourse.com/free and you will get it in your inbox in no time. Thank you, and I see you in the next video.